Hello everyone, I welcome you to my YouTube channel, Professor Civil Mandal. Here I basically speak about various topics of civil engineering, and you will find my various lectures on different topics of civil engineering over here. So in this video I'll be today start discussion about the fluid kinematics. In the previous 5 videos we have discussed about the properties and the fluid statics part, and after we are done with these two, we are now here to the fluid kinematics, where we will study regarding the property of the fluid when it is in motion. So the science which deals with the motion of fluids without reference to the forces causing motion is known as hydrokinematics or fluid kinematics. So we basically do not need reference to the forces. So without reference of the forces which cause the motion, when we try to know about the motion of the fluids, this is known as the fluid kinematics. So basically fluid motion is studied in two different ways. First is the Lagrangian and second is the Eulerian. First, in Lagrangian method, we basically see that individual particle is selected whose motion is traced through the flow. So just consider there is a continuous stream of flow of a particular fluid, and of course a fluid does have many constituent particles, and in Lagrangian method we basically select one particle individually and we trace the motion of it throughout the entire flow. So its various properties such as velocity, acceleration, etc. are observed at different points. So in this way, at different points you can observe the properties such as velocity, acceleration, etc. And this method is not used because it is very difficult to keep track of even a single fluid particle. So just you can imagine that keeping track of a single fluid particle at different points is really very difficult job. So Lagrangian method is basically not very suitable for keeping track of the fluid particles. So this thing is basically the limitation of the Lagrangian method. Next we move on to the next method, that is the Eulerian method. So in Eulerian method, any point in space occupied by the fluid is selected. So basically in Eulerian method we try to see that what a point is occupying and we just study on it. Observations are made of whatever changes in velocity, density and pressure which takes place at that point, and finite volume is taken called control volume, through which the fluid flows in and out. Also we bring out the concept of the control volume. So what is basically the control volume? It is nothing but basically some finite amount of volume. So the fluid flowing in and out of this control volume is studied in the Eulerian method, and therefore we get this concept of control volume in Eulerian method only. Instead of tracking individual fluid particles, we define field variable function of space and time within the control volume. So in spite of tracking one single fluid particle, whatever control volume we have with us, we just try to define that control volume with respect to some space and time variable, right? So the field variable at a particular location at a particular time is the value of variable for which fluid particles happen to occupy that location at that time. So we have the pressure variable that will be expressed as P as the function of x, y, z and t. Similarly velocity and acceleration all are expressed in terms of the space, that is the xyz dimensions, and t time. So basically we take 4 parameters, 3 for the space xyz and another parameter is the time. So basically keeping track of the time and the space occupied by the control volume will give us the idea of the nature of the flow of that particular fluid. So this is the diagram. In Lagrangian method, we have a moving fluid and we select a particle, whereas in Eulerian method we have a fixed point and we define the particular property with respect to as a function of space and time. Next we come to the types of the fluid. First, let us classify the fluid in terms of steady and unsteady flows. So what is a steady flow? It is defined as that type of flow in which the fluid characteristics like velocity, density, pressure, etc. at a point do not change with time. Whereas the unsteady flow is defined as the type of flow in which the fluid characteristics like velocity, density, pressure, etc. at a point change respect to time. So basically, if you consider velocity, suppose, or density or pressure, basically with respect to time there will be no change, or you can say that dv upon dt shall be equal to 0 because there is no change in velocity. In that said amount of time dt, there will be no change in this dv in the velocity, so we'll take dv by dt is equal to 0. Similarly, for pressure or density or any other property, the change will not be observed with respect to time, and such flows are known as steady flows. Whereas in unsteady flow, with respect to time, you will see such type of changes, change in velocity, density, pressure, and thus dv upon dt will not be equal to 0. Next is the uniform and non-uniform fluid. The uniform fluid flow is defined as the type of flow in which the velocity at any given time does not change with respect to space. So just see the word which I am underlining, that is, the velocity at any given time does not change with respect to space. So just try to note two differences between uniform fluid and steady uniform flow and a steady flow. That in uniform flow we see the change with respect to space, all right, whereas in steady flow we see the change with respect to time. So make a correction that it will be dv upon ds. Again it will be dv upon ds for, so basically it is dv upon ds because we are taking the change with respect to space. We are considering the change with respect to space. So that's the first difference between the uniform flow and the steady flow. And the second difference is that for uniform flow we will consider only the changes on the velocity with respect to space, but for a steady flow we will have various properties like velocity, density and pressure, and we will study their changes with respect to time. So the uniform flow is defined as the type of flow in which the velocity at any given time does not change with respect to space. So therefore dv by ds is a constant, will be equal to 0, and it will be uniform flow. Whereas for non-uniform flow, dv by dt t is a constant, dv by ds t is a constant, and this non-uniform flow will be defined as the type of flow in which the velocity at any given time changes with respect to space. Next we have the laminar and turbulent flow. In the laminar fluid flow is defined as the type of flow in which the fluid particles move along well-defined paths or streamlines, and all the streamlines are straight and parallel. So let's just read the definition of streamline once, which is way beneath in the note. A streamline is an imaginary line drawn in a fluid flow such that a tangent drawn at any point on this line represents the direction of velocity vector at that point, and there is no velocity component normal to the streamlines. So basically you can say streamline is a continuous flow of the fluid particles. So basically laminar fluid flow is defined as a type of flow in which the fluid particles move along well defined paths or streamlines. So the path will be well defined just like a streamline, and all the streamlines are straight and parallel, and the streamlines will be straight and parallel to each other. The flow may not be in a straight line, but at a certain section, if you consider, then you will see that two streamlines will be parallel to each other. Thus, the particle move in laminas or layers gliding. So basically, lamina means layer. So therefore, in such a flow, the fluid particles move in layers gliding smoothly over the adjacent layer, and this type of fluid is called as the streamline flow or viscous flow. Next is the turbulent fluid flow, and is defined as the type of flow which the fluid particles move in a zigzag way. The eddies formation takes place, which is responsible for their high energy loss. So basically the path will not be defined for any particle in a turbulent flow. For pipe flow, the type of flow is determined by a non-dimensional number called the Reynolds number. So Reynolds number, basically it is a number which helps us to define that whether a flow is turbulent or laminar. So Reynolds number Re is basically equal to rho v d upon mu, or you can write it like this, that as you know, rho upon mu upon rho is the kinematic viscosity. So you can write that Re is basically v d upon nu. So this is the formula for Reynolds number. We will be studying about it later. And if the Reynolds number is less than 2000, the flow is called the laminar flow. The Reynolds number is more than 4000, the flow is called turbulent flow. If the Reynolds number lies between 2000 to 4000, the flow may be laminar or turbulent. For a pipe flow, this is for a pipe flow, just keep it in notice that if the Reynolds number is less than 2000, the flow is called laminar flow. If the Reynolds number is more than 4000, is called the turbulent flow, and if the Reynolds number lies between 2000 and 4000, the flow may be laminar or turbulent. So here's a diagram. Laminar flow, you can see the fluid particles are parallel and in a streamline, and they have a well defined path. But for turbulent flow, the motion is quite zigzag and they don't have proper direction of motion. Next is the compressible and incompressible fluid flow. Compressible fluid flow is defined as the flow in which the density is not constant. Density won't be constant in compressible fluid flow, which means the density of the fluid changes from point to point, and the notation is rho, but here I have used J. See, J is equal to constant, so you may ignore that. That is not a necessary sentence, but the proper definition is this one, which you must keep it in note. Next is, whereas incompressible fluid flow is defined as the flow in which the density is constant, which means the density of the fluid does not change from point to point. So in compressible flow, density is not constant, which means the density of the fluid will change from point to point, and in incompressible flow the density is constant throughout, which means the density of the fluid won't change at all. So basically we have studied the change of velocity with respect to time, the change of velocity with respect to space, and now we have also studied about the type of fluid flow when we have changes in density or if we don't have any change in density. Gases are basically compressible fluid flow, but whereas the liquids are mostly incompressible flow, because gases are very having a lot of random motion within their particles, so their density at a particular point won't be fixed. So the gases won't have compressible fluid flow, but whereas liquids will have incompressible fluid flow. Rotational and irrotational flow. The rotational fluid flow is defined as the type of fluid flow in which the fluid particles, while flowing along the streamline, and also rotate about their own axis. So while flowing along the streamline, the fluid particles will rotate along their own axis. Just note the figure on the left side. So there is a fluid flow, but also the this if suppose this is the axis or the plane of the particle, you can see that this plane is rotating at every change of position of the particle along with the flow of the fluid. So this is called the rotational flow. So rotational fluid flow is defined as the type of flow in which the fluid particles, while flowing along the streamline, and also rotate about their own axis. So just keep it in mind that the particles rotate about their own axis while flowing in a flow. Whereas for the irrotational fluid flow, it is defined as the type of fluid flow in which the fluid particles, while flowing along the streamline, do not rotate about their own axis. So you can see in irrotational flow, the fluid particles are having a continuous flow, and also though they have a little bit of rotation, but they are not in their own axis. They are being rotated as per the turbulence of the flow or maybe for any other reason, but they are not rotating at their own axis. So this is known as the irrotational flow. Next is the 1, 2 or 3 dimensional flows. Now considering the dimensions, we can define the fluids. One dimensional flow is that type. It's very easy, because one dimensional flow is that type of flow in which the flow parameters such as velocity is a function of time and space coordinate, say x. So basically it will be only one dimension will be having some function of time or space, and other two dimensions won't have any function or they won't exist at all. So basically you can see, if I make 3 axes, and you can see it is about only one axis, u is equal to fx, but v is equal to 0 and w is equal to 0. So the other two parameters or the other two dimensions don't have any significance. So this is known as the one dimensional flow. Whereas where u, v, w are the velocity components in x, y and z directions respectively, that you can manage it anyway. Two-dimensional flow is the type of flow in which the velocity is the function of time and two rectangular space coordinates, say x and y. So now we will consider two dimensions u and v. W or the third dimension will not have any significance, and again it will be a function of two parameters, that is x and y. Previously it was function of only one parameter x, but now it will be a function of two parameters x and y. So therefore it is known as a two-dimensional flow. Finally we have the three-dimensional flow, in which the type of fluid in which velocity is a function of time and three mutually perpendicular directions. The function of the three spaced coordinates x, y, z. So basically all the three parameters u, v and w will be considered, and they will have functions with respect to all the three dimensions or all the three axes, that is x, y and z. So this was basically, you can say, these were the types of fluid flow which can occur in real life. Next, After we are done with the types of fluid flow. Now we'll discuss about the fluid flow pattern. So in fluid flow pattern, first we have the streamline flow. Streamline is an imaginary line drawn in a fluid flow field such that a tangent drawn at any point on this line represents the direction of velocity vector at that point. So basically, streamline is an imaginary line. Of course, it will be based on our calculations only, and therefore it has to be imaginary. And in a fluid flow, suppose this is the fluid flow, and at a particular point I am drawing a tangent. Okay, and this tangent represents the direction of velocity vector at that point, right? Tangent is basically ds upon dt. Suppose this is the tangent, I am taking it with respect to time, and therefore ds upon dt will be equal to velocity, and thus this tangent will represent the velocity vector at that particular point. There is no velocity component normal to the streamline, so there will be no component normal to the streamlines. Equation of streamline is given by dx upon u equal to dy upon v equal to dz upon w, where u, v, w are the components of velocity in x, y, z directions respectively. Next we have the stream tube. A group of neighboring streamlines forming a cylindrical passage with an elementary or infinitesimal area of cross section is termed as a stream filament. A number of stream filaments comprises a stream tube. So basically we will have a group of neighboring streamlines very close to each other. We will consider them together, and this bundle suppose will be known as the stream filament, and number of such stream filaments all flowing in one direction only will constitute the stream tube. So here is the diagram. Basically you can see the streamline. At a particular point I am making a tangent, and it defines the velocity vector at that point. And stream tube, it basically comprises of various streamlines. Next we have the pathline flow. Pathline flow is a curve traced by a single fluid particle during its motion over a period of time. So it is a curve traced by a single fluid particle during its motion over a period of time, and it shows the direction of the velocity of the same fluid particle at successive instants of time. So pathline, it is not a straight line, it will be a curve, and it is the curve which is made by a single fluid while flowing in its motion. So while in motion, a fluid particle, suppose an arbitrary fluid particle in the whole stream of the flow is considered, and its motion is traced. So basically it will give us somewhat a curvilinear path or anything, and this path is known as the pathline flow. It shows the directions of the velocity of same fluid particle at successive instants of time. So basically, suppose the fluid is here, and then next the particle is here, and the particle will move here, and then here, and then here. So at various instants you will get the directions of the velocity of the same fluid particle, and again it can intersect itself at different instants of time, and it is a Lagrangian concept because we are considering only one particle at a time, and therefore it is a Lagrangian concept. So just look at the pathline flow. Here it is, and it is the fluid particle at time t is equal to t start. At the starting you can see this is the fluid particle, and at the end you will get t is equal to t end, and the fluid particles at some intermediate time zone you can see it will be here, and this is basically the instances where the fluid particle has been through while in its motion. So now that was path line, and next is a streak line flow. Streak line is the instantaneous picture of the position of particles of all the fluids particles that have passed through a fixed point in the flow field. So basically here we will consider a bunch of or a set of particles at a particular instant, and it will be representing the map of the flow, and this will be known as the streak-line flow. And so therefore it is an instantaneous picture of the position of all the fluid particles that have passed through a fixed point, and obviously this is the fixed point where these particles have passed through, and therefore they are known as a streak line flow, and line formed by a colored dye injected into a flowing fluid. Of course, suppose a fluid is flowing somewhere like this, and you have injected a dye. A dye is something which will give color. So whenever you are injecting the dye in the flow, that dye will give you the colored representation of the flow pattern, and therefore you can get the idea of the streak line. Next is the timeline, that is the set of adjacent fluid particles that were marked at the same or earlier instant in time. It is the adjacent fluid particles that were marked at the same instant in time. So here you can see you have the diagram of timelines. A particular fluid particle marked at various instants of time, and also here's the streak line. You can see some color has been injected, and at that instant, whenever this color is being injected in the flow, dye or smoke, suppose, all the particles passing through this point will be taking the color, and therefore a particular line will be formed taking the particles, means considering the particles which have passed through this particular point, and therefore this is known as the streak line. Next we have the continuity equation. The continuity equation is a mathematical statement of the principle of conservation of mass. So you all know that mass is conserved, it can neither be created nor be destroyed. So the mathematical representation of it is known as the continuity equation, and according to this, the mass inflow in a fixed region or control volume should be equal to the mass outflow from fixed region in a particular time. That is, the mass can neither be created nor be destroyed. So basically you are fixing the region and the time, and you are defining it as the control volume. Also you are fixing the time, noted that, and you are saying that the mass inflow will be equal to the mass outflow, and it is all because mass can neither be destroyed nor be created. So here's the diagram. There is a fixed region, and we have mass of fluid entering in the fixed region and mass of the fluid leaving the fixed region, and both of them will be equal. So we will now discuss the continuity equation in Cartesian coordinates. So to study the continuity equation in Cartesian coordinates, let us consider a fluid element. Suppose A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H is a fluid element with sides dx, dy and dz, and I also have drawn the axis xyz alongside, and considering that it is a three-dimensional fluid flow. So now let rho is the mass density of the fluid at a particular instant. So we have rho as the mass density, and u, v, w are the components of velocity of flow entering three phases. Okay, So let's consider that UVW. So U be in the x direction, V be in the y direction, and W be in the z direction, and these are the components of velocity of flow entering the free faces of the particular cube or the parallelepiped. Now rate of mass of fluid inflow or influx, you can say anything, in the side ABCD, and that will be equal to the mass density times the velocity in x direction and area of ABCD, right? So rate of mass of fluid inflow will be the total volume upon the time. So basically if we take the total volume and we will have the three dimensions x, y and z, and also the density, and we will get the total volume, total mass by this, and mass flow rate will be something divided by the time. So one component will be the velocity of that side, of that particular side. So I am taking rho and velocity in x direction times area of ABCD. So it will be equal to rho times, suppose u is the, as I mentioned, u will be the velocity in the x direction, and area of ABCD will be given by dy and dz. So it will be dy dz. This component is dy and this side is dz. So it will be u times dy dz. Let this one be equation 1. So therefore the rate of mass leaving mass of fluid, suppose outflow, and that is through side EFGH. So fluid will be entering in this direction, will be going through this direction, and it will be coming out of EFGH, and therefore it will be equal to rho u dy by dz. Yes, the area will be same and also the velocity, plus we will have a gain, that is del upon del x. Just remember the erroneous gains which we had studied in the stress tensor part in the previous chapter in fluid statics. It is quite similar to it, and we will have the gain as like this. So this is the gain. So this gain is basically equal to the mass per unit time and in the x direction only. So I'll be taking dx as the integral, and it will be giving actually the difference between fluid outflow and fluid inflow. So it is basically an erroneous part, and this is basically the difference between the outflow and inflow. So therefore the mass accumulated per unit time will be equal to the difference between these two. So if I subtract this from this, suppose this is equation 2, so it will be basically equation 2 minus equation 1, or you can say the opposite thing, that we are considering some amount will be inflowing and something will be outflowing, and we will take the difference between the inflow and outflow. Suppose 1 minus 2, then it will be this thing minus this one. So basically these two parts will get cancelled and this one will remain as a negative term. So it will be minus del upon del x rho u dx dy dz, taking dx dy dz outside the parenthesis. And suppose we have the difference of the mass flow. Now moving on to the next thing, that is, now just consider that this is as equation 3. We will move on to the consideration that similarly this was all in the x direction. Similarly for y and z directions we will have minus del upon del y rho v dx dy dz, and minus del upon del z rho w dx dy and dz, and this is in y direction and this is in z direction. So let this be equation 4 and this be equation 5. So now the net gain will be equal to the sum of all these things, and therefore net gain will be equal to, this is equal to equation 3 plus equation 4 plus equation 5, and it will be equal to minus del x rho u plus, let's take that dx dy and dz are common, so I will take them out at first, and we will have del x del upon del x rho u remaining, then del upon del y rho v, and similarly plus del upon del z rho w, and minus will again be common because all of them are negative. So the rate of change of mass of the parallelepiped control volume will be, so this was the net gain in fluid mass per unit, and therefore the rate of change of mass will be basically, again if we take out the velocity, don't consider the velocities, and we will consider it with respect to time only, and this thing will be taken as del upon del t rho dx dy and dz. So this can also be another thing, and I can say that this is equation 6 and this is equation 7, and this is also another consideration with respect to time. This was with respect to space and this one was with respect to time, and both of them are basically equal. So if we equate equation 6 and 7, equating equation 6 and 7, we get minus del upon del x rho u plus del upon del y rho v plus del upon del z rho w dx dy dz, and that is equal to del upon del t rho dx dy dz. So let's simplify this equation, and thus we can say that if we cancel this dx dy dz parts, so basically, and we take this part of the equation in this direction on one side, we can say that del rho upon del t will be plus del rho u upon del x plus del upon del y rho v plus del upon del z rho w will be equal to 0. Now this equation is basically known as the final continuity equation. This is our continuity equation, and it is in the Cartesian coordinate, and this above equation is the general equation of the continuity in 3 dimensions, because I have all 3 x, y, z, and also there is it is also with respect to time, and this continuity equation is applicable for compressible flow as well as an incompressible flow, because the density won't be taken into account, because a flow is compressible or incompressible flow if the density changes or not changes with respect to the flow of the fluid. So basically we are not considering that change, we are taking that rho is present as a multiplied term, so therefore we are not considering the compressibility or incompressibility of that flow, and we thus have the continuity equation in 3 dimensions. So the question number 1 says the velocity components u equal to lambda xy cube minus x square y and v equal to xy square minus 3 upon 4 y to the power 4. Then the value of lambda for possible field flow involving steady incompressible flow is. So we are asked to find the value of this variable lambda, this unknown variable lambda, and we are given 2 velocity components u and v, and of course we don't have any third velocity component, and again it is saying that it is having steady and incompressible flow. So therefore we can use the continuity equation, as it is said that it is a steady and incompressible flow, and it will be del u upon del x plus del v upon del y plus del w upon del z, and that is equal to 0. So basically del u upon del x, and let's try to solve del u upon del x. Del u upon del x will be equal to, so as it is a partial differentiation with respect to x, so we'll have only x as the variable and the others will be constant, lambda x y cube minus x square y, and it is equal to lambda x will be eliminated and the power is 1, and it will be y cube minus, here it will be 2xy. Similarly del v upon del y will be equal to del upon del y xy square minus 3 by 4 y to the power 4, and that is equal to, and now we will consider y as y is here in the denominator, and it will be again 2xy minus 4 will be coming outside, so it will be 3y cube. So we won't include anything regarding w, so it will be eliminated as there is no third component. So putting this in this equation 1, we will get lambda y cube minus 2xy plus 2xy minus 3y cube, and that is equal to 0. So minus 2xy and plus 2xy will get cancelled. Lambda y cube minus 3y cube will be equal to 0, and also taking y cube common, lambda minus 3y cube is equal to 0, and y cannot be 0, and therefore lambda is equal to 3. So in this question, two velocity components are given in the following cases. Find the third component such that they satisfy the continuity equation. So in both the parts A and B, we are given two components each, u and v, and we are asked to find the w. Let's just first solve the part A. That is, here we are given u is equal to x cube plus y square plus 2z square, and v is equal to minus x square y minus yz minus xy. We are asked to find w, the third component. Now continuity equation is basically del u by del x plus del v by del y plus del w by del z is equal to 0, and on partial differentiation of del u with respect to del x, we will have 3x square, because these two terms will be constant and they will be terminated. Similarly, having the partial differentiation of v with respect to y, we will have minus x square minus z minus x, and therefore we will substitute in these two values in the continuity equation, and therefore we will get 3x square plus minus x square minus z minus x plus del w upon del z equal to 0, and thus del w upon del z is equal to, so 3x square and minus x square will become 2x square, and we will take this part to that side of the equation, and it will be z plus x plus 2x square, minus 2x square, and that is del w by del z. So del w is x minus 2x square plus z times del z, and now we will integrate both sides, and thus upon integration we will get, now we will integrate both of it, we will get w equal to, and x on integration will become xz, this will become plus minus 2x square z, and this one will become plus z square by 2, and thus this is the w component. And you can say now the constant of integration could be a function of x and y also, and that is fxy. So basically for our safety we'll also do this one, f of x and y, if it is a function of x and y also. Next we will move on to the next part, that is the part B of this question. And in part B we have u is equal to log of y square plus z square, and v is equal to log of x square plus z square, and so del u by del x will be equal to 0 because differentiation of log, and this is not, none of them are x and these are constant, so it will be 0. And again del v by del y, and again differentiation with respect to y, none of them are y terms, so we'll again have a 0 term. So therefore we will substitute this one in del u upon del x plus del v upon del y plus del w upon del z equal to 0, and both these terms will be 0 plus 0 plus del w upon del z equal to 0, and del w upon del z will also be equal to 0. There's no other option. So now on integrating and also by the symmetry of the values, we cannot say that again integration of this thing is 0 only. So we can say by the symmetry of the values that this integration of this thing will be some constant for sure. Now upon integration we will say that w will be equal to something like log of x square plus y square. Now just think one thing, if this is the constant term and we have symmetry in both the cases, so if we differentiate this one with respect to z, we will again get 0, and del w by del z will be equal to 0. So therefore w can be log of x square plus y square, and for our safety we can write a plus f of xy, but we don't need to write in this case. So that was all regarding the first part of the fluid kinematics. On the next video we will be starting with the continuity equation in cylindrical polar coordinates and the further topics of fluid kinematics. So please post any kinds of doubts in the comment section. Also like and share my video. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you.